Okay, everybody, welcome to the board meeting of January 9th, 2020. We're going to reconvene our regular meeting. Can I have a motion to reconvene the regular meeting?
Second.
Call the question. 4 ayes, board president votes yes. What am I missing here? Superintendent, can you give us the gold standard report, please? Oh yeah, flag salute. Is there something funny? Okay. Flag salute. There we go. Do we have any public comments? Wait a minute, whoa. Do we have any public recognition?
Okay, so if the board will allow, I'd like to kind of do like we've done in the past with the public recognition of this plan. And Angie Martin, our PTSO president, is going back to get family of the individual receiving the award, and our principals here.
Mr. Brockway's here.
Okay, great. And so, let's wait for them to come out in just a moment. No. Okay. So we are actually waiting for your family, Mr. Brockway. And we'd like to honor you. And so I'm going to, if you recall, there was a board meeting in the past where I mentioned an acknowledgement that you received in a newspaper. And so we'd like to make it more public this evening, Ms. Martin.
Yes. So on behalf of PTSO, I wanted to explain a little bit about this. So when you received your Hall of Fame award, you were too humble to mention to anyone that you were receiving such an award. And PTSO wanted to be able to support you, and so we could let everyone know how proud we are that you are our principal. So since then, this has been a project, and it finally came to fruition, and I really wanted your family to be here. To signify that I know how important it is that this is your first principal job. I know you're going to go far in your career, and I know this means a lot to you, so I wanted something to commemorate your first year and your first graduating class, which is the class of 2020.
And you can open that case and take it out and wear it and then wash it out. That's hilarious.
Out loud.
Oh, it says Matthew Brockway, Vasquez High School in 2019-2020, commemorating your first year as our silently solid principals, PTSO, January 13th, 2020.
It was going to be presented on Monday, but Elena couldn't be there, and it was really important because I know how much his family means to him. So.
Oh, God, I feel like I'm really bright right now.
You are.
So I don't know if the board members have any comments or if the city board comments.
Does everyone have the pictures they need?
Yes.
Yes? Wonderful. Do we want to release him so he can become the center of attention of what's going on back there? Absolutely. Mr. Brockway, you are released tonight. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Before you leave, Mr. Brockway, I want to congratulate you on this because I think it's extremely important. And that number 20 is a great number. It has a lot of history, and I know you're going to do well. Congratulations again.
Thank you so much.
Wait, whoa. Okay, so we're, Mike, please.
Yes, sure. Mr. Brockway, thank you very much. Many of us, or at least I had no idea that that was happening. And the fact that PTSO did that for you means you obviously are making a very real contribution at the school beyond that which I hear from my own child. To have that kind of recognition So, thank you, Mr. Superintendent.
Brandon?
Mr. Brockway, congratulations and thank you. It's amazing to see you for your first year doing so many things, and hopefully this signifies many more years to come.
Tim?
All right, so congratulations, Ben.
Kelly?
I just want to congratulate you. I've heard great things about you, I know, because we both come from the Antelope Valley in our careers. And I just think this really proves to me the rumors that I've heard. I didn't know you personally, but the things I've heard about you, it's really true what I've heard, and it's always been great things. And thanks to our awesome PTO for just being so thoughtful and recognizing our wonderful principal. And so congratulations, and great. Thank you, family, for coming, and thanks for all the hours. Principals put in a lot of hours and a lot of work, so I know it's hard sometimes when you have to be home on a Friday night by yourself and you can't go on a date because he has a football game. But now at least you have a nice jersey to wear. So thank you so much, and like I said, great. Thanks PTO. Thanks for everything.
Principal
Congratulations.
Brockway, the part about you being silently solid is very significant. It's never about you, and you just have a sense of things, from the cage fight you had at the first football game to any number of things. And I think it's very significant that the parent groups are participating in, they actually hired you, I believe. And I like it that there are parent groups in here and communities that support this, because too often times you find parents in here freaking out about some staff member. So I think you're setting a precedent here. You're the example to follow, sir. Thank you. And your family, thank you so much for sacrificing your father and your husband to this district. He's doing a fine job.
So, Mr. Brockway, I just want to share, again, congratulations on that. You've truly been an awesome member of the team. Sometimes what people don't know is in a small district, you're not just the principal of the school, but you're getting other experiences that would fall to other directors in larger districts. And I appreciate all your support and hard work. And Elena and Logan, thank you. Great to see you again, and go celebrate.
Thank you.
Okay, we're back on. Do we have any public comment cards? Young man, please come forward and tell us who you are and what you need from us. Yeah.
My name is Aiden Vidic. I am a Boy Scout at the local troop 145. I'm working on my Eagle Scout project, which is Welcome to Acton signs, of which I'm building 3, 2 on Sierra Highway and 1 on Soledad. I am building them with the help of the county. They are the ones who are going to be putting in the signs. I'm going to be constructing most of it. And the reason why I'm here is to ask if you guys, well, first actually, they want to have, I want to have local nonprofit community organization, the logos of them on the bottom of the sign to help support our community. And I am here to ask if you guys would like your logo on the sign. And something to say is, the county said that they want their logo to be bigger than everyone else's.
There's just blast.
Public comment. Go ahead.
Well, that's all I'm here to ask. I have a sheet. I have a sheet here that shows the what the sign looks like from the front and from the side. The sign will not. You guys won't have to donate anything. You guys don't have to give up anything. You just have to give me the logo you want and your yes sir, and your answer, basically. Other than that, that's it.
Okay, thank you. If you care to, you can leave a copy of that I imagine that there might be some action on this formally at some point, and then the district would advise you of that if that were to occur, okay?
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Mr. President, if I'll deduct it from my board comments.
Go ahead.
So, you just presented this as part of my board comments, but I've been a Scoutmaster for 11 years, I told you that. That's a very ambitious project. There are a lot of ambitious projects, but any scout, because one of the things scouts learn about is governance. It's a big, big part of scouting. One of the most important merit badges, is a service to country and community and learning about governance. So I applaud any scout that managed to get the county of LA to notice them and work with them on an Eagle project. It's actually quite amazing. You're to be commended for that. That's terrific.
Thank you.
I think what we'll do is staff will follow up, we'll get the contact information, and we'll follow up with you, and then we can get back to the board.
Yeah, if this is something that ends up on a future agenda item as for a formal board vote, then I would think that the young man would be advised of that as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any more public comments? Good, we'll move on. Correspondence, proposals, and reports. Do we hear from the AATA representative? No? Thank you for the fine work you people do. 8.02 CSEA representative, can we hear from you? No one here. Thank you people for the fine work you do. Student representative to the board.
Caroline cannot be here this evening due to school obligation.
Okay. She's done a ton of work up to this point, so it's okay for her to have a day off. There probably isn't a ton to report out on. Which takes us to 8.04, Superintendent Safety Report.
Okay, so a couple of things under the safety report. Tuesday, January 7th, I have my monthly meeting with Officer Deputy Martinez. His involvement with the school district, I'm not sure if the board's totally aware, has been tremendous. He is present on all of our campuses. He's a great support to our campuses and our administrators. He's been at elementary school pieces, correct, Ms. Toledo?
I'm sorry?
Mr. Deputy Martinez has been supported at the elementary school.
Very much so, very much
The
so.
middle school I know, and also at the high school. So I just want the board to be aware his involvement has been tremendous. One of the recommendations that he had for us, and we were discussing it, is a film piece called, it's made by 3M, other folks make it too, but it goes over your glass windows. So we don't want to necessarily go with bulletproof glass, but this film is extremely effective, and will be, Ernesto and Ms. David are going to look at places where it would be suitable upon recommendation from Deputy Martinez. So that's the biggest piece on our safety report at this time. We have 3 more meetings coming up with Mr. Brockway and Mr. Martinez and our district safety committee. We'll keep you informed of those.
8.05 Gold Standard Report.
You'll see in front of you, board members, you have 3 more gold coins, just as kind of a reminder to keep an eye out for our employees that are going above and beyond and showing growth mindset, showing those stay gold moments, making tremendous contributions to our district. And so just you have those in front of you. Feel free to distribute those either at a school site or at if you'd like to do it at a board meeting or acknowledge them in some other venue. We're totally open to however you'd like to do that. The Strategic Planning Committee, we're doing that invite back that we talked about with the board. So we're going to have a breakfast. We'll make sure that you're notified of that. It will either be in January or February, but we'd like to invite Doug Domini back for that as well. And just to kind of make sure that everyone understands this is always a work in progress, we want to make sure that it doesn't become something that sits on a shelf. And the strategic plan is really driving the district. Appreciate that committee's work, and it's also a way to thank the committee and bring them back together for this breakfast. So we have several people in the audience as I look around who are on the committee, and appreciate all their work on that. We have a video to show you, and then I want to discuss a little bit of supper with the soup and show a little video on that as well. So with that, we have Mr. Kessler here this evening with his parents. I was present when you had your signing ceremony. Doesn't look like Coach is here tonight, but I know he's a huge supporter of yours, and you could see that when you had your signing event with your mom and dad there. And so with that, we're going to share a video that we appreciate you partaking in the video.
Mustang, always a Mustang.
Brandon.
He took what I was going to say. Truly, congratulations. That's no small feat in getting signed at all, let alone to a D1 team. We look forward to having great things come out of you, and it's truly amazing to see someone from our district do amazing like this.
Coach Jorgensen.
Well, I'm going to rat you out from PE. So I had Jackson in my class. The hard work that he put there, and it translated out on the field. Leader, game player, challenger, always wanting to do better and do different things. And when I first started watching soccer, I didn't have a clue what they were doing. Why are you going back? And so it was a great opportunity for learning. Now I can't get enough of it. I love watching the guys play. And our ladies, both of our programs have really excelled in representing the Mustangs well. And I'm really glad that you're going to be a Mustang. Because now I might even drive up and watch you play once in a while. Congratulations, Jackson. You're welcome.
Kelly.
I've known you for a few years, you're gonna be there. You'll probably see him at your first game.
I already told my brother.
You might see him at his first practice.
Congratulations. I know so many kids are trying to get into Cal Poly, so, and the fact that you're going there, that's awesome. Great job, hard work, so congratulations to you. This is gonna be another great memory that you'll have. So
That was also very touching. Mr. Kessler, you are a tribute to the model brand of this district. I want you to know that. You go out there and you tell people what we're all about that don't know who we are and what our town is. And Mr. and Mrs. Kessler, this district is not here to parent children, and so many of the problems that we have are from parenting that could be better. I'm diving into an empty pool here, but at the end of the day, I want you two to know that I've known some of your children. They have grown up with some of my children, and you are exemplary parents. And young man, I hope you can appreciate that about your parents. Good? Okay, that was my say something nice about someone for the future. Anything else, Larry?
I do under strategic plan, one more comment. Supper with the Soup, which was held on December 18th, just before the holiday vacation. I want to thank Ms. Jensen for joining us at Olive Garden. We had 4 students that were randomly chosen. I didn't know who was going to come to dinner with us, but for those of you who have been to board meetings and our board members, if you recall, this is an effort to outreach. It's also part of our LCAP, our Local Control Accountability Plan, and our strategic plan to get feedback from our stakeholders. Our students are our most important stakeholders, from transitional kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. So who better to ask how we're serving them than students? So we spent 2.5 hours together where they did the majority of the talking, and we're going to share you'll see a couple pictures up there, and we'll share a brief video, but some of the positives that came out that were shared with us, they feel that teachers and students are united. They talked about the benefits of going to a small school and being in a small town. They talked about very personal things, from abusive situations, very difficult, challenging situations, and how they got over that and how teachers and staff supported them getting through those things. They talked about having options to go to very prestigious local private schools, and after visiting those schools chose to go here. They talked about specific names of teachers like Miss Owens, who are extremely supportive, and they treat everyone like family. They also talked about needs to improve areas, and so they talked about, and were very transparent about, sometimes teachers who maybe don't do those things and how they would feel more, students would benefit more if all teachers acted like other teachers, and they spoke very candidly about that. They talked about the benefit of having other classes like art and shop classes and some of those things. They also talked about their concerns with school violence and gave some potential solutions to that and things that they thought might work in their eyes. And so it was a very productive meeting, and these notes will become part of our LCAP actually, which is a mandatory part getting input from all stakeholders. So with that, I think the guys on very short notice, Alex and Caesar, put together a couple of video clips from that night.
How you actually get into class?
So I want to thank them as well. That concludes my stakeholder report.
Do we have submissions?
But Superintendent comments, sorry.
Go ahead.
886. So the first piece under Superintendent comments is a facilities update. So as you recall, we have our new before and after school daycare in place, Sunny Days. I think we have a couple pictures from that. So these classrooms were redone. We did carpeting, we painted them. Board members, if you'd like to tour any of those, I'd be happy to take you through. But I want to thank Ernesto and Lynn. They just did a great job fixing up these classrooms and getting them tuned up for before and after school. And Sunny Days, from what I can tell, is doing an exceptional job of reaching our kids before and after school, so I appreciate that. A couple pictures of our rooftops showing two things. Some of the pictures show snow on the rooftops and some show the roof work that we're doing. So we're doing some roof work and repairs. I think this shows the snow. So basically just showing that we didn't have any leaks on these particular roofs where there was snow and so on. So we have good work that was done there, and then a couple shots of just the roofs that are getting repaired here at Acton. And so that work is going well at the same time. And then I think we have a picture or two of the fence that went in around Acton School. So I appreciate Ernesto's work on that. Did a great job on the removal and the replacement of the fence, and I appreciate the board's support on saving the district $250,000 in that entire project. So thank you for your support with that. On January 23rd at our next board meeting, Nick Clement will be doing a visitation to the district as part of the National Superintendent Certification Program. So the board approved me in attendance at this program. I'm about 6 months into it. You have to write a capstone. It's an 18-month project. It's fairly intensive. The next week that our training is in February. But Nick Clement is my particular mentor. Part of his job is to visit the school sites, to visit the district, talk to people, and see if the things I'm relaying in class are actually coming to fruition out here. So he'll attend a board meeting on January 23rd. I'm inviting him to dinner before the board meeting. If any board members would like to walk sites with us or have dinner with us, Yolanda will reach out to you and we'll be happy to arrange that. Stay Gold Parent Volunteer Luncheon, just as a reminder, will be April 7th. You see the kind of things that our parents are doing with us through boosters and PTSO, PTO. Appreciate all of their efforts and want to reward them for that at our Stay Gold Senior Scholarship and Parent Volunteer Luncheon, first annual on April 7th. Last but not least is the Polar Plunge. We have Kayla here tonight and Angie, who have been working very hard on this. I think Kayla's the lead, is that correct?
Yep.
So, so if you have any questions, you know where to go. But a couple of things. Board members, in front of you, you have pledge sheets. So Brandon, you have 2 pledge sheets. Brandon Roque and Mr. Fox, you have 2 pledge sheets. So the reason you gentlemen have 2 is because one is for yourself as jumpers. So you can take those home and people can sponsor you and pledge to you for jumping in the lake. Other board members, you have 1 pledge sheet and it only has my name on it as a jumper. So I want to explain why that is, because their financial donations, the way they work, is a little bit tricky, as we found out. So I participated at the Rotary Club of Lake Arrowhead before. I've done the jump twice before. And the way it works is for anybody who jumps, you get 50% of what you collect goes towards the Rotary Club, up to $1,000. Anything over $1,000 comes back to the district. So the first 1,000, 500 goes to the district, 500 goes to the Rotary Club. So in the case of Mr. OK and Mr. Fox, if they only collect $70 each or $100 each, that's fine. $50 would go towards Rotary Club, 50 towards the district. Let's say if one of you happens to get a very big donor, maybe a business or friends or family or whatnot, I would suggest you put that on my pledge sheet, because if only one of us hits the $1,000 mark mathematically, it benefits the district. So it's a little bit tricky in how that works, but Our Boosters Club are completely dialed in 100%. They can help in any way. For the past 2 days, I've been going around wearing a floaty device and flippers and a snorkel, and video production class today helped me make a promo video that will go out by Tuesday. And I spoke at High Desert yesterday on their MTV program, and then we'll do the high school next week and elementary school assembly next week. So we're trying to promote this as much as we can. That's the strategy behind it. We have a very quick video just to show you what it looks like when you jump in the lake. So this is UCLA the only entity, and certainly the only school district from down the hill. So we are going to charter a bus. It's there for board members, it's there for our parent leader groups, it's there for our video production students, and our teachers, Ms. Van Ornum, Ms. Lundquist want to ride along. They're welcome to, as well as Alex and Caesar. So we're going to try to look into how to live stream this, either on YouTube or Facebook. The gentlemen are working on that. If we can't live stream it, then we will make sure that there's recording and evidence of Mr. Fox, Mr. O'Kay, myself, and Dr. Allison getting completely dunked under. There's only 2 requirements: no wetsuits, no nudity, so there's 3. The other one. Oh, you have to submerge completely. And so when I did the promo video today, I got a bucket of water that was about 54 degrees, and I was with 5 or 6 middle school students, and I had them put their hands in and go, wow, this is really cold. So, well, that water there is going to be about 20 degrees colder. So it's chilly, but it feels great. So anyhow.
Does anybody else want to comment on this?
That concludes my comments, Mr. President.
I hope so. Let's make sure that there's no weird, I don't want to hear about anything on the bus, either coming there or back, that the bus is turned into a beer joint or something like that. I feel like your funding model, I think I've seen it with some charter schools before. Let's go on to, don't take that. So now we're off to 8.07 submissions. Do we have any submissions?
We do not have any tonight, correct, Ms. Patterson?
No.
No, okay.
All right, board member comments. Mike.
I'd just like to mention that I heard from a constituent. They love the fence. They love the fact that it's done. They think it matches much more with the environment. So I just felt that I'd do that back. And I'm grateful to see it finish off. That's it.
Brandon.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope everyone had a great holiday, and I'm looking forward to an amazing year.
Tim.
Yeah, just glad everybody made it to wherever their distance was. Had a great holiday, come back, and we got 1 semester now to get it done. I want to thank Lee and Yolanda for the parade of tables. It was awesome. You did a great job. I thought we had the best looking table. You girls did a great job.
It was all Yolanda.
Okay. Yolanda, share with her.
I do.
I just want to wish everyone a Happy New Year. I'm sorry that Aiden Vic left. I thought that was great that we could have the young man. I have a son that's an Eagle Scout, and that's a really hard thing to do. And it's very stressful on the family because you're always that close and you have to make sure they do. What a great thing he's doing. So I think that's awesome. So I'm sorry that he left, but I think I want to just acknowledge him. And going to dinner with those students, the video didn't really, it was, how long were there? Hours?
2.5 hours.
And we could have gone longer. They were very chatty. And, but they had some great ideas, and there was a lot, they had a lot of ideas. But the number one thing for me that stood out is the, coming from the classroom as a teacher, to hear some of those comments they made about how much they respected their teachers and how much they've done for them personally. That's a teacher's dream, to have students come back and just, tell you how much of an impact you've had on their lives. And 2 of those students came from another district. They actually didn't come straight to our high school. They came after the school year had started. So that was 2 of them. And what they loved about our school is how they embraced them and how they made a connection through our programs, and how they finally felt like this school is for me and it's doing so much for me. So that made me, as a board member, feel great that our students really love their school so much. That was the experience my kids had, and so it was great to see that that's continuing for for many of our students. So great idea, Larry. I think that was great, taking our students out to supper. And so that was, I don't know that anyone that's ever done that before. I haven't heard of it. So I think that was really, really a great idea. So I appreciate that. And that's all I have. Also, one last thing, I'm sorry, the after-school program, I think that's, Lynn, thank you so much for working so hard on that and getting that ready, because behind the scenes, there's a lot has to go on before you can get an after-school program going, and it's so important to some of our parents. Some of them have reached out about how they needed extra support, so that is a big relief for our families, and that's a big job, so thank you so much for doing that.
All right, up to me. First, I'd like to say I attended the Herd and High Desert Theater holiday events, and Tammy and the family attended one of the ASMO events, and I think enrichment is very important in the life quality of our students, both now as they turn into adults. At the first meeting I served as the president, I had a couple of priorities, and I always want to talk about those quickly. The first is a civility statement. I've asked Larry to come up with a civility statement to be read at the onset of any public meeting in which decisions are made about that affect the students in the district. I asked that Larry involve the three parent groups. So we've got PTO, Booster, and PTSO to take a base framework of a civility statement and have those people directly input it back to us and have it back for, I'm going to want my fellow board members to adopt that in February. I will tell you that I think civility is a prerequisite to effective and measurable public agency performance. Let's talk about organizational efficiency. My second thing that I've wanted to focus on, I think customer service is a really important aspect of retaining students who are your market share in the district. I think that sometimes we lose cognizance of the idea that if we're sitting at a front desk out there at one of our schools, you are the face of the district. So it's always important to remember that you are the face of the district, and I think it's important to remember who your customers are. You have external customers who are your students and their parents, and you have internal customers who are your work mates and fellow employees. I am not interested in negative work environments. I'm not interested in hearing gossip, and I'm not interested in hostile work environments. So, if you're a frontline employee, I think it would be good if this district had some customer service training for anyone who's a frontline, face-to-face, constant, has parents walking in, people walking in, and that type of thing. You know, this might shock you, but this isn't a naive request. My last 3 employers have been Mirage, MGM Resorts, Disney, and I've been with the city of Beverly Hills for 18 years. So I have been through every customer service training you could possibly have at the highest level. And I will tell you that I think that the value of those trainings is really what causes people to retain their brand. And without that training, I would not have risen to the great heights you see me at today. No laughter. I actually believe that. I would hope that at some point we could sit down with everybody. I don't know what the context looks like, that's not up to me, but anyone who has constant face-to-face with the public and our customers needs to understand how important their job is and how important they are in frontline retention of our market. That's all I have tonight. So now we'll move on to the consent agenda, which is, let's move in the consent agenda.
I'll move it in.
Thank you, Mike.
Second.
Thank you. Just for the public knowledge, there are the minutes of the board meeting, the warrant register, the personnel action report, the Williams Settlement quarterly report. Is the personnel report under here, all of this?
The personnel action report
Yes, okay, so does anyone have anything that they'd like to pull off for discussion on any of those items? No?
No.
Good, call to question.
Aye.
4 ayes, president votes aye, 5-0. Moving on. Catch you up here. Personnel, Ken. We move this in.
I'll move it in.
Mike, thank you. With me, guys? A second. Brandon, thank you. Discussion, superintendent?
So, a couple of things on this piece. If you notice, Mr. Schwartz isn't here tonight, so I'm going to fill in on some of the personnel items. We are currently flying the position of assistant superintendent, which is replacing the director, the former position occupied by Dr. Cooper. The reason for the change in title and slight change in salary is that we want to, it's very difficult to attract in a small district someone that can do all three of these jobs. This job is people services, personnel services, and educational services. In larger districts like where Ms. Jensen works and many others, you have often a chief academic officer who's over the entire educational department. Under them may be an assistant sup, executive directors, directors, even under them can be coordinators and teachers on special assignment and so on. In our district, it's one person filling 3 department heads. So that's a critical position for the district, and so we want to be able to attract, recruit, and maintain somebody who's capable of doing that work. So that's unless there's other questions, that's, the job description is the same, but the title's different.
This is an action item. Is there any discussion starting with Mike?
No.
Everybody good? Okay, let's call the question.
Aye.
4 ayes, president votes aye, 5-0. Let's move in 10.02, salary schedule, assistant superintendent, human resources, pupil services and education. This is the payday for the position that we just voted upon for the job description.
I'll move it in.
Thank you, Mike. Kelly, thank you. Superintendent?
So just, there's 5 steps on our salary schedule C for our administrative positions. The proposed range is an annual schedule of 225 work days. The first step begins at $123,000, and step 5 is $147,000. The prior schedule was also 225 days and went from approximately $118,000 to $141,000. So the difference at the high end is about $6,000. The difference at the low end is about $5,000. And again, our eyes, Mr. Schwartz's eyes, Ms. David's was that will hopefully be enough to kind of attract sufficient level of competition, so to speak, for acquiring a good pool of candidates.
This is an action item. Any comments starting with Mike?
I'm good. I got nothing.
All right. Call the question.
Aye.
4 ayes, board president votes aye, 5-0. Can someone move in 10.03, superintendent or deputy superintendent of business services, job title change?
So moved.
Kelly,
I'll second this
that's Mike. Discussion?
Okay, thank you. So there's 2 reasons for this one. The first one is just in terms of your job families, job classifications, you want to be specific and you want to have alignment. So the current title for that position is assistant superintendent, but we're flying an assistant superintendent position. That's the first piece. The second piece is that Ms. David has been in that position for 3 years. I think she's done a phenomenal job in that position. She's gone above and beyond, not just staying in her lane of business services, but it's been an integral part of making decisions in regard to instructional pieces, professional development, even assisting in areas of personnel, which I greatly appreciated. So because of those two pieces, I'd recommend the board redesignate, reclassify that position to Deputy Superintendent of Business.
This is an action item. Is there any discussion, starting with Mike?
I'll just say that if anybody deserves the job title of Deputy Superintendent, it would be you, Miss David. You're central to everything that we do business-wise, and we've been saying that for years. The financial controls and the budget processing, it's the least that I could do to say, thank you.
Brandon?
For clarification, this is just the name change, correct?
That's correct. There's no monetary change to the position.
Yeah, Lynn, truly, you deserve this.
Tim?
So as being recognized as deputy superintendent, in your absence, she's the automatic backup, right?
That's correct, and in
And
practice, that's how it's
assistance
been.
will be after that. Okay, so it's clear. Congratulations, Lynn. Thank you for your work.
Kelly?
Well deserved, Lynn, so congratulations.
I'm glad to see that there's differentiation between what are basically program directors and what is the equivalent of the chief financial officer of this district. Thank you. Moving on, business services.
We have a follow-up question.
Oh, yeah.
Lynn says, wait a minute, you can't move that fast.
Okay, call the question.
Aye.
4 ayes, board president, aye, 5-0. Moving along, 11, series 11, business services, 11.01, public hearing, SciTech. I imagine this is the material revision vote. We've already had the hearing. Is that correct?
This is the hearing, next meeting will be your vote.
Oh, yeah, okay, I remember, we had the special meeting, okay. Can somebody move this in?
I'll move it.
Mike?
I'll second it.
Okay, that was Brandon.
Brandon moved it.
Yep.
Yeah, I
Go ahead.
Okay, now the time, so we'll announce the time when we're starting with maybe an introduction first. So Ms. Pattison, if you can introduce our guests presenting from SciTech.
Okay, we have Liz Hessam and Mike Hadjiaji.
How'd you, I got it? Very close.
Guy, I'm very close.
So thank you, we'll open the hearing at 8:22 p.m.
And then just as a reminder, I'm sure Ms. Patterson shared with you, but our practice is 15 minutes. The board president will set the timer for the presentation. Then there'll be an additional 15 minutes for questions and answers from the board. If the board wanted to vote to extend that 15 minutes, they can. So just want to lay out that format for you.
Are you ready?
Sure.
Hit it.
Well, we're just simply requesting a location change for one of our sites. Our Boyle Heights site has had to relocate because the current place where we are located has told us that we need to leave because we were in a shared facility and they need that space for other purposes. So we have been able to find a new facility that we would like to move into. It's at 255 South Bendick in Los Angeles, and so that's the reason for our request.
Thank you.
That's it?
That's it.
Perfect, I like that. Do we have any questions? Do you have comments about this first before we take comments from the
I
board?
do not.
Questions, starting with Mike.
No questions.
Brandon?
So geographically speaking, from the address where you were when I was reading through it, what's the physical distance that's changing to service your students?
It's a little bit over 2 miles physical distance. It's actually a much better location for our students. It's closer to public transportation, and it's in between Boyle Heights Community and Montebello, which a lot of our students were having to take 2 transportation lines to get to our site, and it will actually reduce that so that all of our students will be able to get there with only taking 1 transportation line.
And then, so all of the obligations associated with your sharing space facility,
February 1st is our goal.
so you're going to be up and running, you have all the accommodations, everything's all done, you're ready to go February 1st?
Yes, and we are on track to meet that goal right now.
And is this a larger space, so you can accommodate more students?
It is a larger space, and it will be our own space. It's not
And
a
it's you,
shared
you're
space.
not sharing with anybody?
Exactly.
Okay, good, that's all I have, thank you.
Kelly?
I have no questions.
All right. I very much appreciate that you would bring an address change forward. In the past, I've had to go on detective trips to find out where some of my charters were, and I didn't appreciate that at all. Recognizing that the scope of this is limited strictly to you're doing an address change. You are a WIOA program. That is your Shasta exception. You're compliant with 1507. So that said, I do appreciate the information you submitted to the district when we had the meeting and suggested that you might clear it up, because I get a little rattled if I think my landlord is going to throw me out 3 days before I actually find out. That wasn't the case, and I think that the information that you forwarded to the district not only talked about what happened, why it happened, but I noticed that there's people in the program that are doing WIOA that have former email addresses with the City of Los Angeles and their improvement programs regionally. So thank you. That's all the comments I have. Anything else?
Nothing here.
Call to question?
It's just a public hearing.
Oh yeah, close.
We're just closing it, I think. Closing the roll.
Mike, you should come back down.
No, it's on tutor, mentor.
Oh, I know that. 8:26 p.m. Hearing closed, 8:26 p.m. So I guess we'll see you in 2 weeks. Enjoy the drive back and forth each time.
Thank you.
And I just want to add that we really appreciate the special meeting that you set up to put this item on the agenda. Thank you very much, Board and the Superintendent.
Sure, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
11.02, audit report for fiscal year 18-19. Can somebody move that in? Kim?
Second.
Kelly? Superintendent?
So this is an annual report that's required to be completed each year by December 15th. Staff has completed the report, and I'm pleased to have Ms. David present it. So thank you and congratulations on the previous piece passed regarding your position.
Thank you. I'm just going to be very quick and introduce Natalie Palma from our audit firm, which is Christy White and Associates. And this is, I believe, the first year of the second 3-year cycle. When we get an audit firm, it's typically for 3 years. And we readily go out for requests for proposals when we have the necessity to select a new firm. We chose to go with the one that we that we had used in the past. They know our district, they worked well with us, and it saved us the cost of having to go out. The requirement was that we have a different lead auditor. You may remember Valerie Shaw, who was our lead auditor the last time. Natalie is our lead auditor this time, and I will let her explain what she found in our documents, financial statements, policies, and procedures. And the goal of it is to make sure that we're doing things properly. But even when we have our procedures and policies, their goal is also to always meet with us in exit interviews and tell us how we can improve, even if things are great, how we can continue to do better, because of course this is public money and we need to make sure we're doing everything properly. So I will turn it over to her.
Thank you for the introduction. Good evening. Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here. Like Lynn said, my name is Natalie Palman. I'm an audit supervisor with Christy White and Associates. I did aid in the district audit for the 18-19 fiscal year. So I thought I'd go over just a little bit of the procedures and the things that we looked at for that fiscal year. And then at the end, I'll go over our opinions and the stuff that we found. So we conducted our audit of district funds, capital assets, long-term debt, and compliance with state and federal law. We come out about twice a year, once in the springtime before the books have closed, and then a second time in the fall once the books have been closed. And then the spring visit does include a site visit to the school sites as well. And then during our full audit, we encompass school site testing, which includes attendance testing and ASB testing. We do, I believe we do the ASB, we do all ASBs every year, and then we do like 1 or 2 attendance for the schools. We document and test internal controls in areas such as purchasing, cash disbursements, payroll, deposits, and we also look at the food service department. We conduct fraud risk interviews and from selected management and staff both at the district and at the school sites. And we also conducted a single audit, so as you know, the district did expend more than $750,000 in federal money, so you are subject to a single audit, which we also did, and this year we tested the child nutrition cluster. So what we did here is we looked at lunch applications and the verifications done by the food service department here at the district, and we just made sure that everything was being recorded and filled out correctly. We also tested state compliance in areas such as attendance reporting, instructional time, instructional materials, admin teacher ratio, the school accountability report cards, and the unduplicated local control funding formula people council. Sometimes it's just the unduplicated testing. And finally, we tested all June 30th, 2019 balance sheet accounts such as the cash, accounts receivable, accounts payable, capital assets, and long-term debt with revenue and expenditures across all funds. So we do take a look at all of these accounts and all of the funds for the district. And for the audit report, I do want to say that on pages 71 and 76, you will find the result of our audit tests for all of the opinions that we do make. So we have an opinion on state compliance, financial statements, and federal compliance. And I do want to mention that the district did get an unmodified opinion, which is the best opinion that the district can get. So the district is doing great. Overall, there was only one finding related to ASB, which is an improvement from last year, because I believe last year there was 2 findings, one for credit cards and ASB. But for the credit cards, the district did a great job this year in implementing good internal controls, so we found no issues with the credit cards this year. As for the ASB, it was very minor comparison to last year, because I believe last year the problems were a little bit more serious, but this year they did partially improve. The only issues that we found were that 2 out of the 10 checks that we sampled were missing at least one of the required 3 approval signatures, as well as 3 out of the 10 cash receipt samples were not deposited timely. I believe they were deposited over a month after collection, and we kind of recommend doing at least 1 or 2 weeks after the collection date, which again are very minor. Usually with issues this minor, it wouldn't make it to the report, but because of sort of the seriousness of last year's findings, we decided to input it into this year as well. But overall, it was a great improvement from last year. And I believe that's about it. Kind of an overview of what we did for the year and the items that we found. So, do you have any questions?
Mike.
Just an observation. I'd like to thank you for your work, and also thank Ms. David and all the employees. It was very reassuring to hear of the magnitude of the improvement since last year.
Yes, definitely.
That's what I was waiting to hear, and there's always going to be some kind of finding. We always strive to be perfect, but I'm certainly very pleased about the improvements over last year, especially in the area of ASB and credit cards. So that's terrific. Thank you to all your staff,
Thank you.
Brandon?
Out of curiosity, on page 77, it's just the breakdown of the results. The significant deficiencies identified, is that just from the ASB thing, and can you elaborate on that a little
Yeah,
bit?
so just because we did have an ASB finding for that, we do have to say that there was a significant deficiency for that.
Awesome, thank you.
Yes.
Tim?
So I'm gonna, just a couple of questions on ASB. So we've talked before on that 150,584, that was the amount that we set aside to clarify all the issues that we settled up, and then the settlement ends up being about 108.
Correct.
Correct. So the organizations that participated and had accounts with ASB at Mrs. Vasquez, those accounts have all been balanced, or
They've all been made whole. They
They've
were
been
made
made
whole
whole
at the
on
end of last year.
what the deposits were, so they didn't lose any money.
Correct, and just to clarify, again, this was based on 2018-19,
Right.
so the books that closed
Right.
on June 30th.
Right.
So it was, previous personnel, and so we've moved forward. So, and the remedy that we've had is that they're going to be reporting, that they've deposited each week, and then any deposits had, or disbursement approvals had all 3 signatures. So Vasquez, as we continue to strive to improve and try to get to 100%, they've been really cooperative in that. But all the clubs are made whole 100%.
And so, in other words, we've eliminated that risk where people were taking shortcuts, well, I'll sign it later, go ahead and do it. That's going away, right?
Correct.
So
And
there's a
Mr.
process
Brockway,
of expediting the request to the approval, to the board meeting of the ASB, to get it in the books, and then it goes down to the principal and all the signatures before the money heads out. That, I'm glad to hear that. Now,
Yeah, and Miss Owens has been really good, and all of the staff have gone to a training by Fiscal Crisis Management Assistance Team, which is like the big state organization. So they've been to trainings last year, and so they've implemented a lot of strategies. So they're being really cooperative. Mr. Brockway is working with Miss Owens and Mr. Hemmer to make sure that we continue to, you know, get to that 100%.
right, so it's a collective effort from everybody, all the adults that are supervising, from the principal, all of them have to, because ASB is a training session for students to understand how to do cash management, inventory, and all that stuff. They need to learn these things correctly the first time. A quick question for you, like on deposits, and it's always irritated me when deposits, was there any recommendation that ASB deposits, are they bundled or are they individual and then they're taking at one time? I mean, in other words, you have 5 organizations that had deposits to ASB, there's a separate deposit for each one of those, and then that's taken down, so when you go to the bank and put it in the bank, here's one, here's one, here's one, and then it all ends up, rather than put it all together and say, well, I got a deposit for $6,000, but I don't know whose portion of that $6,000 is.
The district actually uses software that's known as Blue Bear. There's a couple ones in the state, but Blue Bear is one of the ones that's used most predominantly. And so Mr. Hemmer's been training for that. And so each club is accounted in their own account, like a sub-account of the ASB account, and then it's deposited, and that can be printed out at any time.
Right, so that, of that 6,000, I know that my 1,500 is part of that 6,000. I got a receipt back to my organization so that there's none of that. And then the final question for you is are these accounts, are they getting monthly reconciliations back? Here's where we see your account at, so that they can say, wait a minute, just like we do our personal checks.
Yes.
You're missing a deposit, I had an expenditure here, so that's being worked out.
Mr. Hemmer prints them out on a monthly basis. A club could ask at any time because the software makes it really easy to print it out. The piece that we did put in place just to make sure that we're all on the same page is weekly I'll be sending an email to the school site to Mr. Hemmer with Mr. Brockway and Ms. Owens included in it that'll say, was any cash collected this week? Was any cash deposited this week? Were any disbursements authorized this week? And do they have all the signatures? So again, it's really just a procedural piece, just to make sure we're all on the same page and holding each other accountable.
Okay, that's all I have, thank you.
Callie?
I don't have any questions. Just thank you very much.
I'll start by saying the agency I work for has zero tolerance for any findings, and findings are accompanied usually with someone with a cardboard box with the remnants of their, whatever was on their desk going out the door. That said, I want to remind everyone that we're talking about what is literally a year and a half, 2 years ago. I remember the days when we had a principal doing the chief financial officer business and all that at the same time. We come from a very volatile place where people were leaving and credit cards needed to be transferred. That's very difficult to do if the person isn't physically here. I don't like seeing findings about ASB because I see the word student in it, and I don't think that the students have really much to do with going on here. I think a student knows how to put a dollar bill with the other dollar bill while they're selling hot dogs at the football game. So the idea here is that the focus is on, as Coach Jorgensen said, that we are helping students understand how to manage money on a scale of something like a public agency would do. Here's what I will say. If you need a 501c3, then get a 501c3. If you don't have a 501c3, don't go to the principal and ask to go through the principal fund, or whether the boosters are going to run the process for you, or whatever it is you're doing. I think that when both the booster and PTSO called in Ms. David to be the very first speaker at that PTSO meeting and booster meeting here, I think that was kind of like I don't know whether it's a subliminal message or something, but saying, hey, you know what, we're not going to have much more of this going on. I'm not gonna get into the depths of discussion about what the payback was and stuff, because I think I recall that being a closed session item. So I'll leave that at that. I would suggest that anyone who's employed in a position part-time is, we want to know if this isn't something where you hop in from after shopping for the day and spend a couple hours looking at a couple of receipts. I think this is a measurable position where your comings and goings are known and your performance is known and valued. And I think that's the missing piece. So I would hope that you would pass on to your staff, whoever the principals are, that are running these district employees, because my understanding, these are not volunteers, they are actually paid district employees with a position, make sure that their performance is accountable. There's the end of my rant. This is an action item, correct?
Yes, you're approving the
Thank you for your work. Lynn, thank you for your work. You all work very well together.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but I totally neglected to acknowledge all the work that staff did to prepare the, the materials for the auditors to review. I don't think people realize what a task it is. There's a list about 3 pages long, little tiny 6-point type of items that they're asking us for, and when they're here, they literally randomly, out of every expenditure we make in a year, or every transaction we make in a year, they'll randomly select 20 or 30 at a time and say we want the backup documents for this. So it's a lot of work both at the district office and every department. They're asking for those items. Food services is pulling those items. The business department is pulling those items. Superintendent's office, the attendance people and HR, they're pulling the items. And so it's a huge undertaking for it to happen. Very stressful for staff, even at school sites, as they're looking through items, and we do want to do things right. So when we get mostly positive things, it's really, and we've made improvement. I just want to acknowledge all the work that people have done. So sorry about that. I just want to acknowledge.
With what you just said, I think it's important to recognize when you come into office, ma'am, it doesn't look to me like you're there to deliver a greeting card. And so you're coming in with all the same stuff. But I think it's important to recognize that there are state and federal findings that you're looking for about compliance with state and federal programs. And when you are working in a world where people are stealing $50 million with a charter school, I think the important message here is that the staff is in compliance with state and federal regulations when it comes to the education of our children. And I think our ASB students, the ones that actually work there, there's nothing that reflects that they're nothing but the finest youth of our community. So that said, call the question. Does anyone else have comments? Mike?
No.
Good? We're all good? Call the question?
Aye.
4 ayes, Board President, aye, 5-0. Thank you for your work.
Thank you, have a good evening.
We'll move on to 12.0, non-action item, unless somebody has a suggestion. Mike, does anyone have a huge problem with putting that on the agenda? Do we have a huge problem putting that on the next agenda?
I don't think that's a problem.
Perfect.
It would be nice, actually, also, if you guys, I'm agnostic to it, not gonna make a meal out of it, what you think you'd like to see up there. It'd be nice. It might look like that, might look like the bell up there, whatever you guys decide.
So coincidentally, that's one of the future agenda items, is you're looking at a rendition of the proposed seal of your next board meeting.
Okay.
So it could even be that.
Okay.
But, if it's gonna slow down the young man's project, I'm perfectly fine voting on a motion just to approve inclusion of a district supply.
A logo to be
A
determined.
logo.
Perfect.
That's
Okay.
okay. We don't need to get in the weeds of
That's
exactly
what the
what it is
verbiage
to slow
was
down the
saying.
project.
So there's nothing to vote on there. 13 calendar.
I'd like to submit information on career connections for a future agenda.
Career connections.
Career
Talk to me a little bit about what that means.
Career Connections it's an elective process where students learn how the construction trade, and by the time they graduate, they'll be already at apprentice level, and they'll have all these contacts and sources. Instead of going out and getting minimum jobs, they'll go out and working for $21 an hour.
Is this a company?
It's an a union organization that provides services for the students in coordination with the schools.
Okay, you'll find out whether this is like a contract or what the fiscal impact is. Does anyone have a problem with Tim's suggestion? Okay, please, when you do this, find a way that this fits into the strategic plan, like area 3, probably subsection 4, okay? Anyone else? Because I'd like to see some of these future agenda items moved off here. So do that in a priority way you can get that done, okay? Some of these will fall off, I see. Okay, calendar.
So next board meeting is the 23rd, January 23rd.
Everybody good?
Regular board meeting.
Everybody good with the 13th? Yep. Moving on to closed session. There is nothing to report from closed session. And I believe that leads us to what?
Yep, we're good.
That would be the adjournment of the meeting at 8:44. Do I have a motion? Yes? Anyone else?
Second.
Thank you. On the question? Aye. 4-0, President votes
Ken just like his stuff down.
yes.